Welcome to Chasing Curiosity TV. Subscribe and press the bell icon for more updates. Section 1. Breaking point, collision at Second Thomas Shoal. The world is riveted. Chinese and Philippine vessels have collided in the South China Sea. On August 14, 2025, a routine Philippine resupply mission to the BRP Sierra Madre turned into a flashpoint. The Philippine civilian supply boat, carrying food and water for Marines stationed on the rusting outpost, was intercepted by a wall of Chinese Coast Guard and Navy ships. The Chinese ships formed a blockade, blaring horns and issuing radio threats, demanding the Filipinos turn back. The Philippine crew pressed on, determined to assert their country's rights. Suddenly, a massive Chinese Coast Guard cutter veered sharply, ramming the smaller Philippine vessel. The impact was jarring, metal screeched, crew members stumbled, and chaos erupted. This was no accident. It was a calculated show of force. The world watched as the confrontation escalated, pushing both nations closer to open conflict. The Second Thomas Shoal, a remote reef, has become the epicenter of a high-stakes territorial struggle. The BRP Sierra Madre, a grounded warship, stands as a lonely symbol of Philippine defiance. The collision was a message from Beijing. China will not tolerate challenges to its claims. For the Philippines, the mission was about more than supplies. It was about sovereignty. The incident has shattered any illusion of calm in the South China Sea. Tensions have reached a breaking point, with global consequences. The world is now watching, uncertain what comes next. The South China Sea has never felt more dangerous. Section 2. The anatomy of a blockade. The collision was the climax of a meticulously planned Chinese blockade. Satellite images reveal Chinese Coast Guard and maritime militia vessels forming a tight cordon around Second Thomas Shoal. Their tactics: high-speed bow crossing, water cannons, and relentless shadowing. The Philippine supply boat, Uneza May 4, faced overwhelming odds. Chinese ships cut across its path, forcing impossible choices: stop or risk collision. Water cannons battered the boat, shattering windows and endangering the crew. The Chinese blockade was designed to intimidate and deny access without firing a shot. Despite damage, the Filipino crew pressed on, documenting every act of harassment. The ramming by Chinese ship 5203 was the most brazen escalation yet. The Philippine vessel's hull was breached, forcing a retreat. The evidence, photos and video, exposed China's aggressive campaign to the world. The failed mission was a setback, but the documentation was a victory for transparency. The world saw the true face of China's strategy: systematic, coordinated, and ruthless. The blockade is not just about territory, it's about control and intimidation. The Philippines' determination to resist has become a rallying point. The South China Sea is now a proving ground for power and resolve. Section 3. The BRP Sierra Madre, a rusting symbol of sovereignty. The BRP Sierra Madre is more than a ship, it's a statement. Once a World War II landing craft, it was grounded on Second Thomas Shoal in 1999 to assert Philippine presence. Now it's a rusting hulk, battered by storms and time, but still a commissioned naval vessel. A handful of Marines endure harsh conditions aboard, isolated and exposed. Their mission, simply to remain, flying the Philippine flag in defiance of China's claims. Each resupply run is a lifeline, keeping the outpost and the claim alive. China's strategy is to starve out the Marines, hoping the Philippines will abandon the ship. If the Sierra Madre is vacated, China could seize the shoal without a fight. The recent collision marks a dangerous escalation in this campaign. Beijing is growing impatient, willing to risk damage and casualties. The fate of the Sierra Madre is now the central drama in the South China Sea. For Manila, holding the ship is a matter of national pride and sovereignty. For Beijing, removing it is a strategic imperative. The rusting vessel stands as a stubborn obstacle to China's ambitions. The world is watching to see which side will blink first. Section 4. China's calculated aggression, the gray zone playbook. China's actions are not random, they're part of a deliberate gray zone strategy. The goal: achieve dominance without triggering outright war. The China Coast Guard, the world's largest, acts more like a navy than law enforcement. Alongside them, the maritime militia, state-backed fishermen, swarm and harass foreign vessels. These tactics blur the line between civilian and military, creating confusion and hesitation. By using law enforcement vessels, China frames its aggression as policing, not warfare. The ambiguity paralyzes opponents and complicates international response. The ramming of the Philippine boat is a classic gray zone move, violent but just below the threshold of war. China bets the Philippines will eventually back down. Each act of calibrated force shifts the status quo in Beijing's favor. The strategy erodes sovereignty, one confrontation at a time. This collision is just the latest in a long pattern of Chinese harassment. Filipino fishermen and patrols have faced years of intimidation. Chased from fishing grounds, their catch confiscated, their livelihoods threatened. China's tactics have escalated from warnings to lasers, water cannons, and now direct ramming. Each incident tests how far China can push without real consequences. The economic impact on Philippine coastal communities is severe. Even government patrols are routinely shadowed and challenged by larger Chinese ships. In 2023, a Chinese ship aimed a military-grade laser at a Philippine vessel, temporarily blinding its crew. China's goal: make it too dangerous for the Philippines to operate in its own waters. The August 14th collision is the most violent escalation yet, a warning that China is willing to use force. The pattern is clear, systematic coercion to force Manila to cede control. At the heart of the conflict is a clash between international law and China's sweeping claims. The 1982 UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS, grants the Philippines an exclusive economic zone, EEZ, 200 nautical miles from its shores. Second Thomas Shoal lies well within this EEZ. China, however, claims nearly the entire South China Sea with its vague 9-dash line, overlapping the EEZs of several countries. In 2016, an international tribunal ruled overwhelmingly in favor of the Philippines, rejecting China's historic claims. China dismissed the ruling, calling it waste paper, and has only intensified its actions since. The blockade and collision are direct violations of international law. China is using force to impose its will, undermining the rules-based order. The world faces a stark choice: uphold the law or let might make right. The stakes go far beyond a single reef. The outcome will shape the future of international norms. In the wake of the collision, Manila responded with outrage and resolve. President Marcos Jr. convened an emergency security meeting and summoned the Chinese ambassador. The government released video evidence exposing China's aggression to the world. Manila's strategy, transparency, and international pressure. By documenting every incident, the Philippines has rallied global support. The US and key allies swiftly condemned China's actions, reaffirming defense commitments. The incident has galvanized Manila's military modernization and security partnerships. Joint patrols with allies are now on the table. The world sees a clear pattern: a large nation bullying a smaller one. The stakes are higher than ever. The credibility of alliances and the rules-based order is at risk. The world is watching to see if words will become action. The Philippines stands defiant, but the next move is uncertain. Behind the headlines are real people facing real danger. The crew of the Unaiza May 4 were civilians, not soldiers, caught in a life-or-death confrontation. They braved water cannons, lasers, and the threat of sinking far from home. Their courage has become a symbol of national resolve. The Marines on the BRP Sierra Madre endure isolation and hardship, holding the line for their country. The collision has sparked public anger and unity in the Philippines. The crew's bravery has turned them into national heroes. The risk of escalation is real. One misstep could trigger a wider conflict. These sailors carry not just supplies but the hopes of a nation. Their safety is now a matter of regional peace. The collision's impact extends far beyond the Philippines and China. The South China Sea is a vital artery for global trade. Over a third of world shipping passes through these waters. Any conflict here threatens the global economy and supply chains. At stake is the principle of freedom of navigation, essential for all nations. China's actions challenge the international rules that have kept the peace for decades. If unchecked, this could set a precedent for other disputes worldwide. The world must stand united to defend the rule of law. This is not just a regional dispute, it's a test of the global order. A peaceful resolution is possible, but only with firm collective action. The future stability of the region and the world hangs in the balance.